looks like the Cleveland Guardians are going to turn it around. We're looking at a strong pitching performance, some good offensive performers. We'll get into all of that on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Guardians. I'm your host, Jeff Ellis, as I have been for every single episode of this show, approaching 800 plus episodes now. Before this, I was the lead draft and prospect analyst at Scoutin' 24/7. So, of course, we'll get into a little bit of draft today on the last full show before the draft on Sunday. And, also, I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. I always like to give shout outs to people who give me good reviews. And I thought I had, done all of these, but then some of these I couldn't remember. So just in case I missed you, thank you to Craig Piggy Sue, to Patch Rogers, and to Lil Josh, I guess I should say, as well as VVVHHTTGCSEC. So thank you. We're at 114 ratings. Appreciate all of you who have taken the time to do that. I have not actually graded myself on there because I never use Apple products, so I just don't have an account. To those who use it, though, we've done the geotagging and stuff on here. Most of my listeners come through iTunes, so that's why that is important. Guardians are winning right now, 4-0, 2 outs in the ninth. Emmanuel Clase just got a pop-up to Alex Call, and we have former Guardian Eric Haase coming in. Is Haase one of the bigger misses in recent memory? When we think about the black hole that is the offensive position, Eric Haase is a guy a lot of us really believed in. Talking to people in the minors with his performance, there were some who did not think he was that far behind Francisco Mejia at the time, when Mejia was considered the best catching prospect in baseball. And I had a few people whisper that they thought Haase was a better defender. Now, I don't think that's really a shock to think that Haase would be a better defender than Mejia. It's not like his defense is what got him out there. But Haase, he's a guy who, at points, it looked like he was just going to be a free agent, or a minor league free agent. He didn't think he'd get it together. And then, he just kept improving, and the power was there. But we have to, and you go and you look at what he did last year, and never going to have a high batting average. He's going to strike out a lot. He doesn't walk a lot. But he's got an OPS still over 700 this year. It just comes down to the fact that he's got power for the position, and when you look at his bat relative to position, he's good. He's actually got excellent pop time as well. He gets up quick. I don't know what his arm speed is in terms of everyone else, but the issue is his framing. Very poor framing data, and I think that's essentially why he was let go. It is up. Last year it was down at 8%, which is really awful, and he is at 31, so that's great improvement. Pop time staying good. And what's kind of funny when you look at it is his sprint speeds are actually in the red. Let's see, did he have 72 and 75%? So he runs really well for a catcher. He's from a very good baseball program, that Divine Child program in Michigan. And before anyone goes all anti-Michigan, remember, if he doesn't come to Cleveland as a high school kid drafted out of high school, and I believe that 2011 Francisco Lindor class, he's going to Ohio State. So yeah, he was an Ohio State commit before he came, joined the Guardian system. Guardians just officially win there on a Haase ground out. But I had to take a second and talk about an old friend who's doing well, and a guy I'm always going to root for, and a guy that I know they value framing so much. We all know that. But man, wouldn't Haase look a lot better than Luke Maile right now as a backup, or even a 40% time player? Am I crazy? Am I making too much of this? Make sure you let me know over on my Twitter at JeffMLBDraft. Let's talk about, to me, the story of this game, Triston McKenzie. I've talked about when McKenzie is on, he is on. And after that really rough stretch where when it got bad, he had the lowest WAR of any starter on this team. He was tied with Civale, and Civale had missed a month. And WAR is an accumulating stat. It's not just like, you can't just be good at it for a month and then it stays consistent. You have to keep staying good. And with Civale missing time, that meant he missed opportunities. So McKenzie had been bad. He had been legitimately really bad. And now this is, 3 starts in a row where he has been amazing. Like, this was, you put the Shane Bieber start earlier this week, and then this start today, these are 2 of the 5 best starts this team has had all year. And it's come in the last, week. For all the problems with pitching, like when McKenzie is on, he is a front-of-the-line pitcher. 8 innings, 5 hits, 12 strikeouts. See, his 109 pitches. So got, I don't know if 109 is really high. It's fine. I'm glad they didn't throw him out there for the 9th, even though he had the shutout going. You don't want him going more. There's no point to it. Also, after everything that occurred yesterday, and we'll get into the roster moves. Sorry, things are like making noise over here. It's driving me nuts. Stop it. This was such a need for what McKenzie did here, to sit there and go 8, to not have to dive into that bullpen. The Guardians needed this. They needed someone to step up. And McKenzie has been that guy of late, but so is Bieber. And that's the thing. You have such a good one in Bieber. Again, we talked about this year. We all kind of underestimated him. Then you look and he's still top 5 in like every stat amongst pitchers in the American League. McKenzie, when he is on, might be better than Bieber. When he is on, he might be better than Bieber. After that, it's just a lot of unknowns or back end. And they're all like, we've talked about before, the oldest pitcher on this staff, it might surprise you, it's Plesac. Then Civale and Bieber are about the same age, and then Quantrell, and then McKenzie, who's almost 25. Everyone else is just 26, 27. It's a young staff, but they're still just not necessarily getting it all together. And part of that is just, with those other 3, I think we can very clearly say they're back end of the rotation types. Isn't it funny with back end of the bullpen is a good thing, back end of the rotation, no. And just to talk again about Civale, his injury with his inflamed right wrist, which that's kind of, you don't think that's going to lead to surgery necessarily, but still, inflamed anything when it comes to a pitcher is scary to me. And talk about it again. Last year, full season, 124 innings due to injury. One can argue his most successful season, and it wasn't necessarily even super successful. His most successful season was as a rookie when it was 57 innings. He had the 2.34 ERA and a 3.40 FIP. The weird 2020 year when they were facing, remember, Plesac and Bieber put up unrealistic numbers because of who they were facing. Civale was okay, worth 1.1 WAR that year, a 4.03 FIP, but 74 innings, which is, for that season, that's a pretty good amount of innings. And then last year, the 124 due to injury, and we're at the halfway point, and he's at 54 innings. Like, he may not break 100 innings this year. And I believe, he becomes arbitration eligible at the end of this year. I don't know what his valuation is going to be. It's really hard to judge a guy who has just had those health issues. So overall, before we get back into the game, let's just get into what occurred. Civale to the tabled list, Tanner Tully up to clear a roster spot. For Tanner Tully, they designated Alex Young for assignment. I thought Young was interesting, but he got a third of an inning. Hey, better than nothing, right? So Young is out, Tully is up. Tully is a guy that you can go out there and just let him throw and you're not worried. He is a rubber-armed player for the Guardians. Then with Mercado cleared waivers, so he is now down to AAA. He doesn't have a choice in the matter. He's not a free agent yet. So he cleared waivers. He is now a bonus player down in AAA. No one claimed him the second time around. But the Guardians, you're like, wouldn't they have a roster spot open? Well, Baltimore waived Kirk McCarty, so Cleveland re-added him to the 40-man. And he is now, I believe, being sent to AAA. So yeah, the Guardians just keep releasing and claiming their guys back. And, I get it to a degree. What this game is, you see the Guardians do it with Yohan Ramirez, and then they trade him with any of these guys. You claim them and add them, and then you wait a few weeks and see if you can pass them through waivers, right? Like, I think Baltimore is like, well, we kind of were intrigued. McCarthy's a nice depth arm. We'll see if we can pass him through. And Cleveland decided that especially with Civale's injury, that they needed McCarty back, and I can't blame them for making that choice. So, yeah, that was the recent roster. Fun again. Mercado gone, Mercado back. That was very loud. I apologize. Now he's down in AAA. McCarty gone, McCarty back. We'll see what happens. June 17th, they're going to have to add Vargas back. And Cody Morris, we talked about, he just started pitching in Arizona, so he's going to have to be added back, I believe, at some point by the end of this month. So they're going to have to clear 2 40-man spots. Right now it is at max size, and one of them is going to need to be like McCarty needs to be, or not McCarty, Vargas needs to be added in the next week. So we'll see what occurs there. We're going to take our first break, come back, and really get into the nitty-gritty of today's Guardians win. First, fantastic sponsor today are our good friends over at BlueNile.com. You know them. If it's fine jewelry, if it's engagement jewelry, if you just want original jewelry, not something that's cookie cutter, but something that is classic, timeless, and original that you're not going to find at traditional jewelry, you want to go to BlueNile.com today. Looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has experts on hand 24/7 available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. Make your moments sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Sports listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement. Use code LOCKEDON. That's code LOCKEDON. Plus every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever peace. Go to BlueNile.com today. And then I also want to give you a heads up. There's a pretty cool draft event happening here at Locked On with some dude named Jeff Ellis and also Lindsay of the MLB Prospects podcast. Subscribe now to MLB Locked On MLB Prospects so you get notified when they go live on draft night. You can also subscribe to Locked On Guardians and also get that in there. Make sure you check out the show. Okay, let's get into it. There's kind of some interesting things going on right now with the Cleveland Guardians and the minors and the majors. We're going to talk about the game first, then we'll get into the stuff in the minors. Pause the video. So, go back. A lot going on. When we talk about this game, I mean, Triston McKenzie is, of course, the star of this one. Easily one of the 3 stars. It's a new high for him in strikeouts. He was throwing hard the whole game. Average exit velocity nearly 96 miles an hour. 8 innings, 5 hits, 12 strikeouts. No walks at all. No hit batters, no anything. No home runs. We talked about like the 2 big bugaboos for him this year have been walks and home runs. Didn't see either. Just an utterly dominant performance by McKenzie. We already got into a bit. Class A with a perfect 9th. Offensively, Amed Rosario 3 for 5. He's either hot or he's cold, and there's nothing in between. Who else reached base multiple times in this one? Well, Nolan Jones had 2 walks. Again, he's got that Carlos Santana in him that's going to make some fans feel a bit insane, because we know how much people did not love Carlos Santana when he was here. Andres has 2 hits, including a home run. He also had a walk. 2 walks by Miles Straw, 2 hits by Austin Hedges. It's almost more interesting who didn't reach base multiple times. That was Kwan, Ramirez, and Naylor, and Franmil. Everyone else did. The entire rest of that lineup who was playing the whole time. Now, yes, Alex Call got a pinch hit, so he didn't get in there. But it wasn't only that. It's like Naylor had his 12th home run. We talked about Gimenez had his 10th in the 8th, kind of to give that insurance. And then Kwan, Gimenez, and Rosario all had doubles as well. So, just a very strong offensive performance, a fantastic pitching performance. And Detroit, listen, we talked about last time, for as much as we all complain, myself included, about the Guardians' struggles, go look at that lineup in Detroit right now. Let's just, the OPS is down the line, 672, 700, 697, 679, 709. Eric Haase is their best hitter at 709. 570 for Candelario. Scope, 574. Spencer Torkelson, one of him and Bobby Witt were the names to watch for Rookie of the Year. 584. Akil Baddoo, remember when he was the story of the year last year as a Rule 5 pick at the start? 425. They have 3 guys batting under 200, including Torkelson and Candelario. It's rough. We complain about Hedges, and yes, Hedges is still worse than everyone but Baddoo. But overall, I mean, this Detroit team is not good, and that is what you should do when you face a lineup that, again, has been historically bad. And it makes that sweep last week even more infuriating right now. This Detroit team is historically bad. There's no reason for them to have swept the Guardians, just none at all. The offensive explosions they had. But in this one, let's just focus on the good. Everything was good. Your 3 stars in this one, obviously McKenzie. And then I'm giving one to Andres because home run and a double, and he had a walk. He reached base 3 times. And then I know some would argue Naylor for the other home run, but I think you have to give it to Amed. 3 hits and a double. He had an extra base and 3 hits. Yeah, he's the guy there. One of those ones where it's the weird situation where we're leaving off a guy who had a home run, or we're leaving off guys who reach base on, had 2 hits. But that's how good of a game this was overall for the Guardians, and hopefully they'll just keep chugging along back to 500 right now for your Cleveland Guardians. And 44-44. Been a 500 team most of this year. We'll see if they can, they're still second in the division. I didn't see what the White Sox have done tonight. See if they're going to stay a half a game up, or if the White Sox lose and it becomes, a game and a half up. But either way, I'm very interested overall to see what the next step is. We got Plesac versus Hutchinson. I know I've been doing the 1-to-1 matchup, so I feel like we've just been kind of in the same guys in a rotation here. But Plesac versus Hutchinson should be advantage Guardians. Quantrell Pineda should be advantage Guardians. Bieber versus Bo Brisky should be advantage Guardians. The Guardians should sweep this series. They should. If I went through position by position, catcher, they have the advantage. After that, the Guardians have the advantage at every other position. That's how bad Detroit's offense has been. They have a dominating advantage in terms of lineup. They have a advantage in every single one of these pitching matchups. Cleveland should win these 4 games. They should go into the All-Star break 3 games over 500. That is my hot take right now. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on my Twitter at JeffMLBDraft. We're going to take another break here, come back, and talk about a lot of moves in the minors and look between the lines and see if we can figure out what's going on. What our good friends over at Bet Online. You know them, you love them. Let's do what I used to do back in the day, which was sit here and tell you about what's fun about Bet Online while going and looking at tomorrow's line. I've already said the Guardians should win tomorrow's game, but them being on the road, this might be a chance to go and have an advantageous situation. Cleveland, Plesac versus Hutchinson. Yeah, Hutchinson is getting 1.5. So Cleveland actually at a -1.5. Again, I don't always know these things well, but I believe that means that the Guardians are favored tomorrow, and 1.5. Plesac's pitched well of late. I would think that you want to look into Plesac in that, if that is your thing. And BetOnline not as your number one source for all of your betting needs and info, as I just showed. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores and news. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check on all of your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today, or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Was that too big of a gap there? Just gonna sit here, do a quick little edit, go back in, and if you're watching on the video, this is the thing. You can watch on the video and listen and see what the differences are in terms of where I start and stop and where I do minor edits or not. Just a little wrinkle. So the Guardians had a bunch of moves today. Alan Romero went from Akron to Lake County. Seth Caldwell was activated in Akron. People looked at that, I think, the wrong way. I wouldn't get too that anything is necessarily coming. I know what happened with Maley yesterday. Yes, getting hit in the mask means you would think he's probably going to miss time, but it's not a guarantee. Going back into this, Randy Labatt, who's been really strong this year, and Zach Hart got demoted. Brian Eichhorn got demoted and inactive in Lynchburg. Mason Hickman, Matt Turner, Jordan Jones, and Doug Nikhazy. Most of the pitching staff. This screams of a COVID outbreak. Let's be honest. Am I allowed to say that? I think at the end of the day, when you see 4 guys go inactive from a pitching staff, you can read between the lines. They had a COVID issue there, so those guys will probably stay inactive until they can test, safe. Until then, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's a rough situation for that team to have to cover, and the Guardians have to move that many arms around to, make up for that fact. Speaking of other things that could be scary, John Kenzie Noel took a fastball to the hand and was eventually pinch hit for. We'll follow that story as it comes. That came from our good friend Justin Lotto over at Indians Guardian Insider at JL_BL. And then Justin also had the stats on Peyton Batenfield, because I think this is something you really should I should talk about, that everyone needs to hear about, because we've been talking about Batenfield's struggles this year. Today, 8 innings on just 93 pitches, 6 Ks, 3 hits, lowered his ERA to under 3 now, down to 291. Probably his best start of the year. I don't think he's... I do like Justin's follow-up. This was a good start by Batenfield. Not every good performance needs to be followed by a call-up, though. He gets a shot eventually. That is a new minor league high for him also from Justin. And I agree. I'm not saying that Batenfield needs to be called up or anything of that like, but I think when he is performing well, it makes it easier to consider, like I said, he's someone who needs to be added before the Rule 5 at the end of this year if they're going to keep him. So it just gives you another option at the end of the day. That's all. It gives you an option about who can jump in for this starting rotation. I just don't, again, it's great. Kirk McCarty's back. Connor Pilkington, these are fine depth guys. Batenfield's the player where I think you have some hope that he is more than kind of that up and down arm. So we'll see, but it is nice to have him performing well. So after a rough stretch to start the year, I think we all thought he might be conceivably up by now. It just hasn't come together for him. So we're hoping that can continue on for Peyton Batenfield. And again, gives them another option. Just like Cody Morris pitching in Arizona this week, gives them another option in terms of, who can help this team. Because pitching is a weakness. It is a legitimate weakness. It's a weakness, people. No, it's a weakness. And we would like to see, continued improvements overall in that staff. And I am very curious how they're going to approach this deadline. There's a few different ways they can go about it. But speaking of approaching the deadline, if they decide to go all in, let's talk about who are the performers this year. And one of the things that stood out is yesterday we were talking about the hitters, looking at the pitchers. How about the fact that Logan Allen, with 120 strikeouts already, that's right, 120 strikeouts in 82 1/3 innings. My goodness. Next highest, Jack Leftwich with 99. Xavier Curry at 94. Hunter Gaddis, 93. Tanner Bibee, 92. Gavin Williams, 91. You can just go through this list, though. It's like Rodney Boone, another guy who's had, I believe, a velocity jump, is at 90. Will Dion, who had a velocity jump, I want to say, at 88. Trent Denholm, who I know had one, at 84. Then Joey Cantillo, who's just healthy at 83. Going through the continued listing of, because that's the problem. A lot of these pitching stats, games started, saves, it's minor league stuff. Is that, what's the value? Whip, whip has been shown to not be a great indicator, but I think there is some value just in looking at it. One is Leftwich, and again, Leftwich is older than Gavin Williams, and he's spent most of this year in the lowest ring in the minors. Now, he was a reliever at Florida who didn't develop. If you've heard that story before, I don't know why. Oh, right, because it's the Florida pitcher story. Aaron, I'm curious. Are you sad that I'm not making fun of Virginia as much, or is it better I'm making fun of somebody else? I feel like Virginia probably doesn't like Florida in baseball. Let me know about that. I am curious. When you look at whip, it goes Leftwich, Williams, Boone, Dion, Curry, Gaddis. Again, Gaddis is that guy where we had him on the show, and he's not talked about as much, but he's appearing on all of these lists. And, this is the official document I get being part of the media from the Guardians. And I like it, but I wish that they would, they have average and innings pitch. And my favorite is shutout, because it's just Rodney Boone with 1. The only shutout in the minors this year. Complete games, you got Boone and Leftwich, each with 1. It's could we have, can you guys maybe compile and give us, walk to strikeout ratio, things like that. I mean, it's not, I mean, I can pull that up on Fangraphs. It's like I can do that, but it's just, I don't want to seem like I'm not appreciative to being on that list and getting this additional info. It is fun to see, but it's just interesting that like even to this day, it's like when I get there from the Cleveland Guardians, it is ERA, wins, strikeouts, game started, complete game shutout, games, saves, innings pitched, average, whip, and win percentage. Those aren't like the most, like, those aren't stats that the front office, I think, even looks at, maybe outside of strikeouts. It's funny in that regard. And again, I am thankful that I qualify as media and they send me that. And, there's so much great information in here in general when I get the little packet. But looking at it overall, I'm just kind of like, okay, I guess that's how this is going. You can't help but kind of laugh. We talked about the batters in general. It's interesting if you go and look at the International League, which is all of AAA. Will Benson and Alex Call 1-2 and on-base percentage in the entire league. We were talking about, where they placed amongst the Guardians players, but, Benson 6th in the entire league, Call 4th. They've got a lot of guys performing really well. Overall, Benson leads the league in walks. John Singleton, do you remember him? Signed a contract before he ever got to the majors and then was a big bust. That was the Houston Astros, didn't get that one together. But yeah, it's one of those things overall, like looking at, Zach McAllister is pitching out in Memphis. I did not know that. That's the interesting thing, because like once you made it to the big leagues, you always make decent money. So hey, if you're happy living in Memphis and being a depth starter, when was the last time like Zach McAllister interesting. Might have to try. I tried to click on his name and I got invited to the Major League Baseball self-registration research portal, and I'm going to 100% try to apply for this later. I don't know if I qualify or not, but I love that I can do that. So yeah, looking at this pitching staff overall with the Cleveland Guardians, it is like Xavier Curry, I think, is still more likely a reliever, the same way, for a lot of the same reasons I thought Eli Morgan was. And I think Gaddis is as well, but those guys are performing well, and I'm not opposed to trying as long as you can. But what is interesting right now with this Cleveland Guardians team, and it's what I talked about yesterday, I think Clase's spot is safe. I think Morgan's spot is safe. Trevor Steffen's spot should be safe. Sam Hench's spot should be safe. You want to see what he can do. Karinchak, exactly. You want to see what he can do. Sandlin, yes. And Neil, he's been strong. I think his spot's safe. So what's that leave? That leaves Brian Shaw. Because you can only carry so many pitchers. And if we go over here and I go to teams, teams, Cleveland Guardians, do you want to place a bet on who the lowest WAR on the Guardians pitching staff is? I'm going to claim I'm going to claim Shaw. Does anyone want to oppose that bet? I'm going to give you a second here. If you oppose that bet, you owe me money. Brian Shaw has appeared in 34 games and has a -6 WAR. He has a 608 FIP. His xFIP is only a 435 because his home run rate is so high that xFIP thinks, it's got to stabilize. Shaw just isn't good. His WAR is worse than Castro's. Yes, he has pitched in more innings than Castro, but that's the only reason why his WAR is worse than Castro. I mean, you're looking at guys who have just been. He is in that grouping where he is with the guys that we know are just not major league ones. He had a negative WAR last year. Brian Shaw has not had a positive WAR in a season since 2017. It's 2022. He's had 5 years in a row with a negative WAR, and they're paying him. If he stays on roster, it's going to get close to $4 million. Close to $4 million for a guy who the last time he had a positive WAR was 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Who's pitching the most games for the Guardians this year? Okay, that's the end of your pause. If you're thinking Shaw again, I got you. It's not. It's Clase is in 39 games. Shaw's number 2, though. That's right. Brian Shaw has appeared in the second most games. And he is the worst pitcher on this team. That's my frustration right now with Shaw. And it's like his strikeout percentage is under 20%, which on this Guardians team, you know who has strikeout percentages under 20%? His is tied with Connor Pilkington's, and then it's Plesac, Quantrell, Kirk McCarty, amongst people who've had double-digit innings. That's not, Plesac and Quantrell are not strikeout artists. Pilkington, McCarty are not. Like, Shaw is supposed to be someone who misses bats. Be like, well, at least he limits the damage on the walk. Not so fast, because in terms of walks, we're looking again at someone over 10 innings. Sandlin's still the worst. Then Castro, Gose, Pilkington, and who's fifth? Brian Shaw. So not only is he not missing bats, he's not striking anyone out. And I know I promise prospects, but this is my point. We need to see what all those other players can do. So let's limit the Shaw. It's time to say goodbye to the Shaw of, I'm not going to say Iran. Let's see where he's from, as I don't know that off the top of my head. Oh, come on. That's where you kind of miss the baseball reference, where it gives me all that information. I guess I missed the point. So we're not going to make the joke because it's just sad to make it now. But it's time to say goodbye. I know he's Tito's favorite toy, but for a guy who has not had a positive WAR in 5 years, and that just... Cleveland last year was, games played, 81 last year with the negative WAR. 2020 was 6. Colorado was 70 games with a negative WAR. Colorado was 61 with a negative WAR. He was 29 the last time he had a positive WAR. Hit his 30s, and it just hasn't been the same guy. And right now, again, you could be seeing what, maybe a Xavier Curry could do as a reliever. You could see what maybe Hunter Gaddis could do. You can see what some of these are. And when Anthony Gose is healthy, who are you getting rid of? Are you going to cut and Yale? Are you going to get him through waivers? Because he's not getting through waivers. Are you going to send down Henches because he's had struggles? You're just going to, ignore the fact that he is your young power lefty and you don't have a lot of those. So we only need one lefty. That's probably what's going to happen. What should happen is goodbye Shaw. I'm going to leave it there. I know it's supposed to be all prospects, but when we talk about those prospects that aren't really, they don't strike me as starters. What they strike me as is relievers. And, Curry and Gaddis have to be added at the end of the year. Miklajak has to be added at the end of the year. Why not add them now? You have so many starters in AA. We've talked about it. There are guys who, especially as players come off the disabled list, get healthy, move in their roles. At some point, I assume we're going to want to see Vargas starting again. Just have at it. Make this team a young team. It doesn't have to be vets everywhere. I know, there's going to be some out there being then you have no veteran present. The entire coaching staff is veterans. You have that many coaches on this team. They should be able to provide a bit of a veteran presence. And if not, then that's what Jose is for. That's what Shane is for. It's not like they're the youngest team in baseball, but part of that is because they don't have a bench with a bunch of 30-year-old dudes. They rolled with young guys. They're not giving secondary contracts to mediocre talent. And they're not a team, out there, rolling with a Taylor Wade who just got traded from, to the Yankees. They're trying their own internal options, and I'd like to see them do it with pitcher. Rather than compound the Brian Shaw mistake, end up paying him $1 million more, and I mean that literally, pay him $1 million more if you let him get to 80 games this year like he got to last year. It's time to cut bait and say goodbye. Maybe see if he wants to get into coaching. I think he could be good at that. I really do. And again, his first run in Cleveland, he was phenomenal. He was, I would argue, one of the top 10 relievers in the last 20 years for this team. So I don't like that it's ending like this, but I think it's time to end it. Much like this show. Thank you for listening to Locked On Guardians this week. Remember to rate and review, download daily. It helps. I'm going to have some bonus shows this weekend, all focused on the draft. If you want more draft, it's coming. I'm going to have one for Saturday and Sunday to prepare you for Sunday's Major League Baseball draft. And as I end every show, go Guardians go.